Ladies and gents, all the sports besides one are back. The NHL playoffs first round is in full swing. Some rounds are completed. The NBA is back. And the Brooklyn Nets look about as terrible as we thought they would. Want to know how bad? Find out right now. This is Downtown Sports. I am the mouth of the South, John Schiavone, along with my co-host, the Beast of the East, Jonathan Carriente. This is Downtown Sports. This is where sports come home. Shane, get that clock up. It is a two-hitter, ladies and gentlemen. Beast, let's talk about this NHL season and the Rangers' great return to the playoffs.
Well, if you're a Rangers fan, John, it couldn't have ended worse if you were a Rangers fan if you tried. Now, the positives.
Just letting you all know. I'm good. I have the bucket.
Okay, good. Keep that bucket in hand. All right. Yeah. So the Rangers were bounced from the qualifying round. They got swept in 3 games by the Carolina Hurricanes. Crazy enough, the regular season, the Rangers owned the Hurricanes all year.
Yep.
4 games.
All year long.
4
At
games.
The end of the regular season, before this COVID stuff.
4 games. Rangers owned them all. 4 games. Rangers
before this COVID stuff, the Rangers were going to end up being in the 8th seed.
Right.
They were moving very fast up the standings.
And you know what? Once COVID hit, whatever momentum the Rangers had was broken. No matter how you look at it, that's how it is. So the Rangers go into these games. They had a preseason game against the Islanders, lost that game 2-1. All right, you didn't think very much of it. You thought maybe it was just a warm-up game, whatever. Then came the Hurricane series. Rangers fell behind. Rangers again went back to some of their old ways of giving up too many shots on goal. They just looked flat. They just didn't look like they were focused on any of these games. Nope. And they came out and literally the Hurricanes just wanted it more, outskated them, better coached. And the Rangers now, as a result, are going home.
Well, when you don't have your starting goalie for the first 2 games of the series. Now, I did say start Lundqvist game 1.
And they did.
I said that. But they did it because they had no choice. That's the difference. They did it because Igor Shesterkin was not ready to play.
You had Georgiev. You could have used Georgiev.
No, that wouldn't have worked. I would have put Lundqvist in rather than Georgiev. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so fine. Lundqvist game 1. Fine.
Yeah, but it's not as if Lundqvist did a terrible job. He's not the old Henrik of 2004. I'm sorry. But here's what you got. You got a goalie that held a high-powered offense to about 2 to 3 goals.
Yes.
So if you're the Rangers with the offense that they have and Kreider, you should be scoring more.
Yeah.
Then game 3 comes around. Shesterkin back on the net. Kreider scores the first goal. Everything's looking good from that moment on. The Rangers just – it's like their skill level just dropped off. Let me just explain the main reason here. In situations like this – now, this goes through all the sports too. So – think about your 60-game baseball using your shortened NBA, your revamped NBA playoffs. Think of all these things, right? The team with the most talent is the one that's going to win these short things. I don't want to hear anybody say anything because if there was a team that was below playoff ranking that, would have been that team to climb, it would have been the Rangers. Let me just explain it. In these situations, health and talent are the 2 biggest factors to determine if you're going to win. There's no long season grind where you have to have some sort of, big mental stamina and physical toughness and heart to play through all those games. No, it's not like that. You have to have heart and stamina and talent, but it has to be a different way. You have to be able to apply it immediately. Like the Hurricanes players, as we said when we had analyzed this series, scheme benefited the Rangers. Talent benefited the Hurricanes.
Well, for Carolina, they were coming off a deep run in the playoffs from last year. And listen, Rob Brind'Amour was a former Hurricane. He won a cup with this team. He was a captain of this team. And having him as head coach, I think, really allowed this team to really kind of gel as a unit and really become a very disciplined team. Adding Jordan Staal to that mix with their younger talent, Sebastian Aho is looking like a star for the future with the Hurricanes, and he really had a huge series. And you really just saw the Hurricanes play shutdown hockey. And more importantly, they're a good defensive team. You look at it very carefully. This team blocks. They play good defense. And they also play very aggressively. They don't take plays off. And that's
they hang out in front of the net. Those defensemen hang out in front of the net.
And that's a scary thing to have.
That's a rare thing in hockey today.
It is.
You know, I see defensemen trying to be forwards. I see defensemen trying to be shooters. I see defensemen trying to be skaters. You want to know what the Hurricanes do very, very well? They get 2 to 3 bodies in front of the net whenever there's a shot. Yes. So the Rangers might have had some shots on goal, except here's a Carolina defenseman to knock it away. Here's a Carolina defenseman to go and,
stick check.
Stick check them, mess up the shot. Here's a Flyers defense. Here's a Hurricanes defenseman with a stick. Oh, he's gonna put his stick in the way of you slapping your slap shot. Here comes the other defenseman to steal the puck, and then there's a 3-on-1 race to the other team's goal. Yeah. That's the way the Hurricanes play.
They did a lot of that in this series, a lot of shorthanded chances. They led the league in shorthanded goals, 10 for the regular season. So this team is very aggressive, and they play very, very hard-hitting hockey at the same time. So they're going to now be a very dangerous threat going forward. I would like to see if the Islanders have to go up against the Hurricanes down the road, and I'd like to see if the Islanders will have any better luck than the Rangers did.
Well, the Islanders seem to have better luck in this postseason scenario, being as they're about to, I believe, sweep the Florida Panthers away.
They're up 2-0. Yep.
Up 2-0. And by the way, does anybody miss Tavares? I don't.
No.
I don't miss him.
And yet he scored for the Maple Leafs last night as well.
Great for them. You know what? I hope he enjoys sleeping with his Toronto Maple Leafs bed sheets and his little Maple Leaf, plushie that he hugs and squeezes every night, because we don't need him here in Brooklyn or in Long Island either. I mean, whether it's Barclays Center or Nassau Coliseum, Tavares was not tough enough for either of those places.
So, going back to the Rangers for a moment, 11 Rangers made their playoff debut in this qualifying round. Now, the good is they got this playoff experience, so I'm hoping now that for the future now, the Rangers, I think, now have a good program and a good plethora of pieces going forward that they can now play with here.
And to keep this whole line of positivity running.
Amen. Positivity. Let's keep the positivity. Yes. Positivity.
So now, I think the Rangers actually benefited from losing this series.
All right, please.
They have a 12.5% chance of saying that losing this series was more worth it than going deeper into the playoffs in 2020.
Okay.
Want to know why?
Please.
Because the NHL draft lottery picked one of the playoff teams, a to-be-determined later team, to get the number 1 pick. Here's how that works for everybody that forgot about that whole rigmarole, okay? Any of the teams eliminated in round 1 of the playoffs. Now, this means 1 through 4 of Western and Eastern Conference do not qualify. We're talking about the teams from 5 through 12. Whichever one of those teams loses the playoff entry round. So technically, you could say the Rangers didn't make the playoffs according to this playoff structure that they had. The Rangers didn't make the quote-unquote postseason. So they now have a chance at getting the number 1 pick in the draft. And who is that going to be, John? Because everybody around the NHL has been talking about this kid. They're saying he's like the next Luc Robitaille. That's a name you haven't heard in about 1 million years.
Well, we have a lot of big ones. We have Quentin Byfield. He's one of the top 10 prospects for the 2020 draft. Well, 2021, if you can think about it that way. Mm-hmm. Aatu Rady is the big name that's this big center is being talked about to be that next future piece. Now, looking at a mock draft that I have right in front of me here.
Like he's Luc Robitaille. They're talking about this kid like he's Luc Robitaille, reborn. Like he's got the speed and the strength, both.
Now, according to the mock draft that I'm looking at for 2021, now it's obviously a little outdated from June, so we don't know if this will change. Right now, the Rangers are listed as the 11th pick on this mock draft, but since we had this play-in game and the Rangers could possibly be a top number one draft pick, there raises the possibility. But the Red Wings and the Devils were the worst two teams in the league. So very likely to say the Red Wings and the Devils will likely get one of the top couple of draft picks.
No.
They could. Still
no.
12.5%, John.
No.
Why?
They're out. Their picks are already solidified. You didn't know this, John? Wow. Something about hockey that Beast didn't know. I'm going to savor this moment.
Congratulations.
I'm going to freaking frame it. If I could frame audio and put it on a wall, I would. Because there's something about hockey that I know that Beast doesn't. Unreal. I can't believe it. But the NHL had a draft lottery. The Devils, I believe, have the third pick. I think Detroit has like the fourth or some ridiculous nonsense. Those picks have already been put in. We're just waiting to see who gets the number one pick in the draft, because the number one pick in the draft lottery, this was pulled out by NHL commissioner, whatever his name is.
Gary Bettman.
Gary Bettman pulls it out and says, a team to be determined later. What that meant is one of the teams that were in the bubble that doesn't make the actual postseason then has a 12.5% chance of getting it. So think of the teams that will be eliminated. So Rangers, Panthers, other teams like that were on the cusp of being able to be playoff ready are now going to get a number one star out of this draft. Could you imagine the Rangers pick first and Kreider ain't the best player on the team anymore?
Last year, the Rangers went number 2 and got Capo Caco. We haven't really seen that kid really break out yet to be that player yet, but he's still a kid. He's 19 years old, so we have time with that. The Devils got Jack Hughes. We were waiting to see what he'll become.
Another round, but a number one pick for the Rangers?
That could be very good. If they can get number one, it'd be great.
If they get number one, they're one player away.
Now, let's look at the Rangers' future here. Shesterkin, I think, definitely has solidified his spot as the number one goalie. No doubt about it.
Shesterkin is definitely there. What you're going to see from Lundqvist is sort of like what Marty Brodeur did with the Devils.
Do you think
he's going to stick around?
Do you think Henrik played his last game as a Ranger
I don't think Henrik played his last game as a Ranger. Nope. I think when Lundqvist said he wanted to be a Ranger for his whole career, he actually meant it. There are plenty of teams that are in these playoffs right now that would, if the Rangers would have called them and Lundqvist would have approved, they would have taken him off their hands instantly.
He's going to be 39 years old next year.
I know. There are still some teams in these playoffs that would prefer Henrik Lundqvist starting for them over the options they have right now.
Well, I hope the Rangers decide well what to do with Henrik, because you obviously remember what happened back in the 70s when the Rangers dealt, what's his name, Eddie Giacomin. You remember that, John?
I don't.
Okay.
That's okay.
Basically, I'll go back a little in time very quick.
Yes.
The Rangers were rebuilding back in the late 70s, and Eddie Giacomin was like the center stone of that Rangers team. He was like their captain. Everything you'd want in a goalie was with Eddie Giacomin. And then during a rebuilding period, the Rangers let Eddie go. The Ranger fans were outraged. They never forgave the management for that decision for years. And then, how ironic, days later, the Rangers faced the Red Wings, who Eddie Giacomin ended up going to, played in the Garden, and the Rangers were actually booed in their home ice whenever they scored on Eddie. It tells you how much Eddie was revered in New York.
I'll tell you this, Lundqvist doesn't have that kind of love here, even though he should. Not that kind of love. No way.
You hear the fans chant Henrik. You hear the Henrik chants every time.
Of course they hear the Henrik chants, but if the Rangers were to trade Lundqvist now, like, as somebody who roots for that team, here's the thing with Henrik Lundqvist and why New York wouldn't be as mad if he were to leave or get traded now. One, Lundqvist has a no-trade clause. The Rangers fan base clamored for that. Probably because of this story you just told that I had no idea about from way back in the day. Rangers fans clamored for that. They got it. Lundqvist has a no-trade clause. So, two, if Lundqvist does decide to leave, it's not because he was traded away or he didn't want to be here. It's because he decided, yeah, you know what? I'll go. Because he has that choice to say whether he approves of a trade or not. Three, Lundqvist has not been the Henrik Lundqvist of even 4 years ago. He's a mid-level goalie, probably one of the best backups in the game, but if he were a starter, he's mid-level to below average at this point in time. So I think we'd honor him, we'd like him, we'd love him to death, but you're not going to see any Ranger fan boo at any time the Rangers would score a goal on Henrik Lundqvist if that were to be the case.
Well, definitely, again, the Rangers have some very interesting decisions to make. Listen, Henrik serves as a solid veteran for these two young goalies in Georgiev and Shesterkin. Absolutely fair. And look, the Rangers have some great pieces, as I said, coming forward. Filipino's turning into a star slowly before our eyes. Brendan Lemieux is a great pickup as a defenseman and a very hard-hitting type of player. I think the Rangers are close. I think David Quinn really may have won a lot of people over for his coaching ability. A lot of people didn't think David Quinn was fit to be the coach of this team.
I wasn't one of them. I was one of them that thought he shouldn't have been the coach either. So,
but I hope this year he may have won people over that he's the right fit for them.
Look, they overachieved. They definitely overachieved at the end of the year.
Nobody thought they were going to be here. Nobody gave the Rangers any hope of getting here. No.
But there's one problem I have with Quinn. Just one.
Let me hear it. What's the problem with Quinn?
During this Toronto bubble period,
yes,
the Rangers played like they were entitled. They listened to their own hype. They listened to their own press way too much. And then once it didn't start working out immediately,
they gave
like they thought it would. Not even that they gave up, they started pressing. And then once you start pressing, you're never going to get it done. Because if you're spending the whole time nervous as hell thinking, I have to make this shot, and if I don't make this shot, the whole game's over. Then what happens when you don't make the shot? How are you going to rile yourself up to press again to make another shot? Now you're sitting there, you're thinking all this, damn time.
All right. Well,
let's out of time.
I hope the Rangers will learn for the future now. Next year, I think will hopefully be a lot better. But right now, let's take a little break. When we come back, we go into the NBA, the Bubble Bowl, first week. And so far, off to a good start if you're the NBA. Some solid games. We've had very good outcomes so far, and still a few more games to go.
And the games have definitely been a lot more competitive than the NHL.
Yes. We'll
find out more right after this. And we're back. It's Downtown Sports on the Mouth of the South. John Schiavone, along with my co-host, the Beast of the East, Jonathan Perriente. And Beast, where can they hear us?
We are on 9 different platforms. We're on Anchor. We're on Breaker. We are on Spotify, Radio Public, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and CastBox. We're on 9 different platforms. We ask you to please subscribe to our podcast. Continue to support our great work that we do.
Subscribe. That's how you're going to know when the new episodes are up. We are very topical, but we're also very hard-hitting in terms of the day that we record. So you want to hear it fresh off the presses. If you want to do that, you got to subscribe. Also, you want to help out this podcast, there's a little donate button that you can click. There's 3 levels of donation per month. 99 cents, $4.99, and $9.99. If you want to help us out that way, that keeps us on the air. That keeps us going. That's great. Subscribe, donate, follow, listen, share. This is Downtown Sports. This is where sports come home. And we've got the second half of this 2-hitter to do. Shane, get that clock.
The NBA, ladies and gentlemen.
The Bubble Bowl, the Bubble Bowl sport. Everything inside of a bubble. See how when the sports are inside of bubbles, they don't get COVID? Isn't it funny?
I always wondered when SpongeBob went inside the Bubble Bowl and how they did that performance in front of the football fans.
He did it without COVID. That's how he did it.
Exactly. Anyway, but yeah, so far we have seen, and we were concerned. Obviously, let's go way back for a minute. We were all worried when sports were going to come back, COVID-19, were sports going to be able to survive this pandemic? And the NBA, the NHL, I commend them. They've had no cases of COVID amongst these players.
Woohoo! Positivity.
They've stuck to the plan. So the NBA, thanks to that, we have seen very competitive games in the NBA throughout so far. We're 9 8 games before we get to the real playoffs, and
even
every
the
game
Wizards look
right
good.
down the wire.
Even the Wizards look good against the Nets.
Yeah. The Brooklyn Nets last night beat the Bucks 119-116.
That I was shocked at.
The Suns beat the Clippers last night by 2 points.
That I'm not as shocked at.
And then the Blazers beat the Rockets.
With Melo hitting the clutch game-winning shot.
It's about everything you love to see with basketball, and really is a way of bringing it back. We're seeing these highly competitive games throughout this bubble series. And I think it really allows the players to really play at their best. That's what you love about this.
You know what the thing is with this? The NBA, and specifically the NBA players, they were the Players Association and the Players Union that was most gung-ho about getting back on the court. I mean, other than players like Kyrie Irving, who wasn't going to be in the bubble anyway, nobody really complained that much. I mean, I know Melo was a part of that whole maybe we shouldn't have the seasons type of thing. But do you know what? He was called. They decided to have the season. He didn't opt out. He went down, said, okay. He said his opinion, shared his piece, and then he went down there and shot a piece through the hoop to get the Blazers back in playoff contention.
LeBron's made it very clear he wanted these games to be played. He wanted to see this season and have a champion. And so far, you're seeing it amongst every one of these teams, even teams that we didn't think had a chance. You're seeing highly competitive basketball on every scope of this series. And you
LeVert's playing out of his mind. Also, that's another good thing for the Nets specifically. Let's focus on our New York team here for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, Brooklyn.
LeVert is looking better and better and better and better. Next year, this team is going to have 4 stars.
I should tell you, the Nets won without LeVert in the lineup last night to begin with. He had a thigh injury.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't even play, and they won without him.
Yep.
But you saw the level of play from each of the other Nets. You saw Luau Cabarrot led the way with 26 points.
You know what else you saw?
Temple with 19 points. Just different players.
You know what you saw? You saw the reason why Kenny Atkinson was let go. We all were like, wait a minute, why are you firing Kenny Atkinson? He took D'Angelo Russell and made him into a star. Like, why are we firing this guy? You know what? Look at the results in the court. No Irving, no Durant, no LeVert, no Dinwiddie, and they can still go out and beat the Bucks.
Also,
a team that they're going to end up playing in the playoffs.
Also helped that they shut down Antetokounmpo, held him to just 16 points, which was, mind you, he didn't play a lot of minutes, but then there was the other night where he had like 7 fouls, should have been out of the game the other night, and you had complaints left and right about that. The Celtics felt like they got robbed out of that game the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tonight the Nets are going to play the Celtics tonight, so this should be very interesting how they're going to match up with the Celtics, considering they got past one of the top seeds in the entire NBA in the Bucks. Now can they do it against a Celtics team that's pretty pissed off with how they lost the other night?
I would say, honestly, right now, the Nets are the least talented team in this bubble. They really are. I mean, they're least talented team. Straight away, least talented. The Wizards have more talent on their roster than the Nets do right now, actively playing.
That's if John Wall doesn't get hurt. That's if you take John Wall.
Oh, John Wall goes away, then yeah, I completely agree with you. The Wizards are the least talented team there. But here's the thing. The Nets are missing right now. Dinwiddie's out, Irving's out, Durant's out, LeVert's out with a thigh injury until Lord knows how long. I don't know. He's day-to-day right now. Who's playing for the Nets? Has anybody even heard of any of these people? Other than real diehard Nets fans or people that cover it, who's ever heard of any of these people that they got running onto the court right now?
Well, look, in a fair way, it wasn't too long ago the Bulls had a team had to win games like this where, a lot of their talent. Derrick Rose was hurt how many times? Joakim Noah got hurt how many times? You saw how Tom Thibodeau led the way with a Bulls team that had virtually no stars and got them to where they were a consistent playoff team. Mm-hmm. Now the Knicks are going to have their first go with Thibodeau once the regular season for the NBA does return.
Don't worry, he'll be fired halfway through the season.
I love how very quickly you're already having no faith in the Knicks. They get a
as long as Dolan owns this team, there is no hope.
I've heard the Knicks
the second Dolan got control of this team, one of the first things he did was trade Patrick Ewing away. That should have told you everything you need to know about James Dolan as the owner of the Knicks.
Well, I'm giving Thibodeau the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what happens. Will he complain?
It's not him that I'm upset about. I feel bad for him.
Well, let's see how long he gives it himself. Let's see if maybe Thibodeau just leaves on his own if he gets tired of how Dolan's running things.
I mean, because you have Dolan at the helm, and now you have this former agent. This is the second New York team that's hired a former agent to be the head of the team. And then what's that other guy's name? World Southwest or whatever the hell. I don't know, some form of geographical name the guy has, the other person in charge with Leon Rose.
It's hard to believe, by the way, that, with the Knicks, Leon Rose being an American attorney, to be one of the executives of the Knicks is kind of that's kind of crazy in itself.
I mean, none of what Dolan has done over the past 20 years has made sense, so why should this? Why should this make sense? So, John, who is that guy, along with Leon Rose?
William Wesley.
It is William Wesley. They call him Worldwide West. Is his name. Everybody calls him Worldwide West. So you have Leon Rose and Worldwide West running the team.
Well, if you're the Knicks, it's going to become the Wild Wild West if this keeps up.
What do you mean if this keeps up? I don't even know what to say. Dolan's taken a franchise that's been iconic and made it garbage. Nobody wants to play. I can't believe I'm saying this. The aura and mystique of Madison Square Garden is gone. At least in terms of basketball, it's gone.
Well, yeah.
I can't believe Dolan's actually done that.
When was the last time you heard the Garden having any big events down the road? You haven't really seen it anymore, except maybe when the Rangers play there. That's about it.
Yeah, that's really all you get. You get Rangers games, and then every once in a while when Steph Curry or LeBron James comes in, then
you'll tune into it, but that's it.
Yeah, that's literally how it's gone with the Knicks.
Well, the Knicks haven't.
How it's gone.
Well, the Knicks haven't been relevant for roughly about 20 years.
Well, no, this is what you do. This is what the Knicks have always done. They've done this since the Ewing days. You get a star, and then you put no one around them. They did that with Pat Ewing. They did that with Stephon Marbury. They did that with Carmelo Anthony. And they traded away everybody that was good around him. When Melo came here, you had Stoudemire, and then you had Billups. Got rid of Billups, brought back Raymond Felton for what reason, I don't know. And then starts the whole rigmarole of BS again with this team. So I'm not excited about anything New York Knicks. I can't be. Because for 20 years, I've watched futility. Complete and utter futility. Ever since that 1999 NBA Finals and then that one appearance they had in the playoffs when Marbury was there, nothing. Nothing worth my time even looking at.
It's been a merry-go-round of how many coaches. It's been a merry-go-round of how many players that nobody heard of.
I've watched more Nets games with more interest, and I'm a Knicks fan. That's all I have to say about how bad it's been. But at least the bubble bowl, whatever you want to call it, everything's all about the bubble. You know who's going to be drinking that champagne bubbly? It's going to be LeBron James when he wins that title because Steph Curry isn't there to take it away from him.
You think LeBron is going to be the one that wins the title this year? You don't think the Greek Freak has any chance? You don't think Giannis will have something to say about that?
I think he'll have something to say, but I don't think it's going to matter.
Maybe the triple-double machine Luka Doncic will say something about that with the Mavericks. Maybe they might derail the Lakers from getting to the finals, perhaps.
No way. I'm sorry to say it this way. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, where's the trophy? Because like we said in the first segment and like we saw with that Rangers series, the team with the most talent is the one that's going to get through these bubble playoffs, shortened seasons, stoppages, the best.
There's quite a bit of talent here.
Wins games, especially in the NBA.
And there's quite a lot of it if you look around this entire bubble and look at this whole series. The Raptors, we can't count the Raptors out.
Not at all.
We count the Raptors out? No. We can't count the Lakers out. We can't count the Thunder out. We can't count the Nuggets out.
I'm counting the Clippers out. I'm counting the Clippers out.
Well, Shane.
That's the Kawhi show. Look, I love Kawhi.
Shane could care less about the Clippers. He doesn't care about the Clippers.
I know. Shane doesn't want the Clippers to win. Shane doesn't care. Shane was mad when the Clippers got, when they got Kawhi. Shane didn't care. Shane was like, that's it. Kawhi's dead to me now. Kawhi Leonard doesn't exist. Our engineer's just nodding his head on the camera saying, yes, you are right. You are right.
So,
I hate
if you had to pick, so I know we're doing this a little early, but if you had to pick your conference finals for the West and the East, who's getting there? Out of all these teams that you see right now, who's getting to that West and Eastern Conference final to eventually set up the NBA finals? Who makes it?
To me, in the East, it's Toronto and the Bucks. That's your Eastern Conference final.
Okay, I know
the
Giannis.
Western Conference final is
Giannis
Lakers.
Wants to win that ring. He wants to win. Does Giannis? He wants that ring.
The Western Conference final is a hungry LeBron James with the Lakers.
Okay. I think the Mavericks. I think the Mavericks could surprise some people.
If Porzingis
That's
if Porzingis remains healthy.
Yeah.
But the team I'd put there, if they both recover from coronavirus, the Rockets. Harden, Westbrook. I mean, that's the only other team with enough firepower to take on the Lakers at this point.
But yet, look what happens. Harden gets to the playoffs every year. What happens to Harden after you get later in the playoffs? What happens to James Harden? Does he show up or does he disappear?
He generally gets eliminated and outplayed by people like LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard or others.
And then when Russell Westbrook returns, you have the two of them playing again from their old days with the Thunder. And then
the only thing I would say about having Westbrook and Harden on the floor is that Harden would no longer have to drive the ball action. He would no longer have to bring the ball up. In fact, we could even have Westbrook and Harden play off each other. Harden could point, then Westbrook could point. Both of them know what to do with a basketball. They know how to cut. They know how to go through. And you know what? The good thing about that team is they're very backcourt heavy and they're very backcourt friendly. They're going to be able to cut through lanes. They're going to be able to get open shots. If Westbrook and Harden are on the floor at the same time, that's going to be something to watch. But right now, we're out of time.
On that note, let's wrap it up. This has been another great edition of Downtown Sports. We thank you so much for listening. I am the Feast of the East, John Parente, my co-host, the Mouth of the South, John Schiavone. You can listen to Downtown Sports on 9 different platforms. We're on Anchor, we're on Spotify, we're on Breaker, we're on Overcast, we're on Pocket Casts, we're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, and Radio Public. You can listen to us every Tuesday, Wednesday for rants, live episodes every week. Please subscribe to our channel just by pledging a little bit of money, even $1 a month. You're investing in our ability to continue producing incredible content.
And you can subscribe without having to pay too. Just follow the podcast. There's a follow button on Spotify. There's a subscribe button on Apple. Just click any of those buttons. You'll get notifications when we post rants, when we post episodes. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming because sports are back. And this is Downtown Sports, where sports come home. Thanks to Shane Sullivan behind the glass, Tony Mainville, and Chris DeLarge, our research team. For John Parente, the Beast of the East, I'm the Mouth of the South, John Schiavone, signing off, and we out.
Goodbye.